What if the very last words you received weren't just ink on paper, but a lifeline one that shatters your world and forces you to face a truth you never wanted to hear? In the last letter, every word carries the weight of love, loss, and survival. Tonight, we dive into the letter that changes everything forever.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Podcast Zone. I'm Emma.
And I'm John. I'm really excited to get into this today. We've received this incredibly detailed chapter-by-chapter blueprint of a story called The Story of Letters, Loss, and Unbreakable Vows. It's a deeply emotional narrative. We're talking about a single mother. She's running this B&B up in the mountains, and a war operative, like highly disciplined, whose lives just collide through letters.
Right, during these intense periods of, global conflict on his end and really personal crisis on hers.
Exactly.
Our mission today, it's pretty clear. We're treating this source material almost like an archive of human experience. We're not just going to walk through the plot point.
Definitely not just summarizing.
Right. We're aiming to pull out those, let's call them knowledge nuggets, the sort of universal truths this story touches on: vulnerability, the sheer pressure of parenting alone, especially under duress, and the really complicated journey of veteran reintegration.
And importantly, we're going to ground these insights. We'll connect them back to what's happening right now, specifically with U.S. examples from, say, 2025, to really feel the weight of this fictional journey in our world.
Precisely, to see how these themes play out in real life.
Okay, let's dive in. We're starting, fittingly, where a lot of connections begin in silence, or maybe bridging silence. Section I is all about correspondence, about letters as a lifeline. So chapter 1, Sparks in the Silence. The narrative just immediately throws these two lives into sharp contrast. You've got the soldier isolated, guarded, carrying the weight of combat.
Yeah, deeply affected by loss, too.
Right. And he gets this unexpected envelope on his birthday, of all days. And the text says it just sort of cracks his guarded heart.
And on the flip side, you have the mother. She's juggling twin 5-year-olds, which is chaos in itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Plus the constant demands of running this mountain B&B. So it's two forms of pretty extreme isolation, wouldn't you say?
Totally. Wildly different contexts, but isolation nonetheless. And that letter becomes the bridge.
And that's the first big insight nugget right there, the necessity of connection because of isolation. It doesn't really matter if the walls around you are a military protocol in a war zone or the four walls of a house where you're the only adult responsible for small children. That fundamental human need for contact, for something beyond the immediate struggle, it's universal.
And the form of that contact is key here. It's a physical letter.
Yes, that's critical. We live in this world of instant digital everything, right? Texts, emails, DMs.
Right. Constant communication, but maybe less connection sometimes.
Exactly. But here it's ink on paper. That's the emotional pivot. And it's interesting. We're seeing a bit of a resurgence of this even now. In 2025, people are kind of rediscovering slower forms of correspondence.
Like those pen pal apps I've heard of slowly.
Precisely like slowly. It deliberately slows things down, brings back that anticipation, that reflection. It mirrors what the source material shows about letters in military life. For a soldier, a physical letter isn't just news. It's a tangible piece of home.
Something you can actually hold.
Yeah, hold, reread, maybe even smell. It's a sensory link. It provides kind of grounding, a sense of normalcy that, frankly, a quick digital message just can't replicate in that kind of high-stress environment. And it's this tangible vulnerability, him receiving it, her sending it, that sparks something. Belonging, maybe, even across that vast distance.
It's a powerful start. But just as that little spark appears, chapter 2 hits us with whispers of worry. The stability on her end just shatters.
The B&B routine is humming along, and then, bam, one of the kids collapses. High fever, mystery illness.
And suddenly, her isolation isn't just emotional or logistical, it's terrifyingly practical. She's alone facing a potential medical emergency.
And this resonates so strongly, I think, with modern American families, especially after everything since 2020. We have more geographically scattered families than ever before, right?
Yeah, people move for jobs, for opportunities.
Yeah.
Grandparents aren't always just down the street.
Exactly. So that fear, that panic of navigating a child's serious, maybe mysterious illness without that immediate in-person support network, it's a very real, very contemporary pressure point for a lot of people in the U.S. today. That feeling of being utterly unsupported in a crisis.
And the letters, they can't fix that, can they?
No, of course not. But the soldier's reply arrives right around this time, and it contains his own confessions of solitude, his own struggles. It's described as this fragile thread of correspondence trying to offer some kind of emotional ballast, trying to steady her soul even from thousands of miles away. He can't be there, but the shared vulnerability helps somehow.
It deepens the connection, even through worry, which leads us into Chapter 3, Gravity's Gentle Pull.
Yeah, this is where the metaphor of love as gravity starts to take shape. Well, we see these small domestic moments at the B&B baking. Maybe just quiet time in the kitchen, becoming these little anchors for her against the grief and stress. And for him, the letters become treasures. They prompt a reflection, maybe on old wounds, things he hasn't dealt with.
And there's mention of a fallen friend.
Yes, the echo of a lost comrade challenges his own isolation. It pushes him, maybe unconsciously at first, towards finding a new purpose, something beyond just surviving his deployment. It's about finding a reason to, well, to be pulled back to life, back home.
So gravity is like a grounding force, sense of purpose.
Exactly. It's that fundamental human need for something to hold on to, something that gives life meaning and stops fractured people from just spinning out into chaos. And we see this dynamic mirrored in real life very clearly in veteran support groups across the U.S. in 2025.
How do they provide that gravity?
It's not just about talking, though that's vital. These groups often provide a shared experience, a sense of belonging, and crucially, sometimes a new mission or a promise of purpose. Helping other vets, community projects, whatever it is. It's that shared commitment, that gravity, that helps individuals and families ground themselves after the disorientation of service or loss.
So this shared need for grounding, for purpose, is what starts pulling these two very different, very fractured lives together.
One tentative step, one letter at a time. It's a magnetic force born from shared vulnerability and maybe a shared hope for something more.
Okay, so the foundation is laid, connection born from isolation, amplified by the physical letters, and now this emerging sense of mutual gravity. But things are about to get intense.
Understatement.
Let's pause for just a second here. Remember, folks, like, subscribe, and share for more update.
All right, we're moving into section 2. And the shift here is dramatic. We're going from that emotional connection built across distance
To immediate high-stakes crisis. Physical, financial, the whole 9 yards. Yeah, the distance basically evaporates, and now they have to deal with the reality and the cost of this connection they've forged.
This is really the narrative's hinge point. The danger moves from out there, the war zone, to right here, the child's health, the family stability. And it demands physical presence, not just words on paper.
And that hits hard in Chapter 4, Shadows of the Storm. That mystery fever we talked about, it escalates. The source calls it a thunderclap diagnosis.
Oof, yeah. That peaceful B&B setting is just instantly replaced by the cold, harsh reality of hospital lights and medical jargon. The future is rewritten in an instant.
And the mother, she's forced into this mode of sheer defiance against what feels like overwhelming despair.
It really highlights the incredible resilience often demanded of single parents facing huge challenges alone. And, thinking about the 2025 context, medical advancements are part of this picture, too. The text mentions referencing AI-driven pediatric oncology advances in U.S. hospitals.
How did that play in?
Well, think about it. AI can speed up diagnoses, analyze complex data, maybe offer prognosis with more accuracy or speed than before. It offers a kind of technological hope, right? Faster answers, maybe better treatment plans.
Okay, so there's that layer of modern medicine providing some potential light.
But the narrative is smart. It contrasts that high-tech potential with the mother's raw human fight. The AI might give odds, but it's her spirit, her defiance, that's actually waging the battle in that sterile room. The technology is a tool, but the struggle is deeply human.
Which brings the soldier directly into that human struggle. Chapter 5, Veils of the Unspoken. He arrives.
And the tension is immediate, isn't it? Because now, face to face, the foundation built on letters meets the wall of his secrets.
Her need for truth, for understanding who this person really is that she's leaning on,
collides head-on with whatever he's holding back from his life in the military, from the battlefield. There's a scene, a drive together, where the attraction deepens, but so does the mystery. The unspoken things hang heavy in the air.
This feels like a really tricky ethical area, the complexity of omission.
Absolutely. He likely believes he's withholding information, maybe about PTSD, ongoing risks, past trauma, to protect her and the kids.
But is it protection? If it undermines the trust they need right now.
That's the crux of it. And it taps right into ongoing debates in the U.S. military community around 2025, how much operational secrecy is necessary versus the transparency needed for healthy family communication, especially when dealing with the invisible wounds of war like PTSD. You see nonprofits and resources trying to bridge that gap.
It's that classic conflict. Loyalty to the mission versus honesty to the partner.
And the narrative forces us to sit with that discomfort. His justification might be protection, but that secrecy becomes their biggest vulnerability down the line. It's interesting, though, the story suggests at this point that his redemption isn't in immediate full disclosure, but simply in the act of showing up, being physically present despite the half-truths.
But those veils, they feel like they're bound to tear later.
Oh, inevitably. When the demands of their shared reality require absolute honesty, those secrets are going to cause major fractures.
Which actually sets up what happens next in Chapter 6, Flickers of Defiance. The medical situation is still touch and go, setbacks mixed with small wins.
But the really interesting development is between the two of them. The shared stress, the venting, the fear, it apparently sparks this unexpected, intense chemistry.
Moving beyond just allies in a crisis.
Yeah, the source uses terms like frenemy dynamic, threatening to ignite something forbidden. It suggests that crisis acts as this incredibly potent intimacy accelerator.
How so?
Think about real-world situations, like after a natural disaster in a U.S. town or during a community health scare. People who are maybe neighbors, maybe even rivals, suddenly find themselves relying on each other for survival.
Barriers just break down.
Instantly. You see each other stripped, bare, scared, exhausted, but also defiant. That shared experience, that raw vulnerability in the face of adversity, it forges connections incredibly quickly. It bypasses all the usual stages of getting to know someone. Suddenly, the lines between friend, supporter, and potential partner get very blurry very fast.
And that need for reliance becomes undeniable in Chapter 7, Threads of Trust. They're keeping vigils at the hospital.
Yeah, those long hours, the shared worry over the child, punctuated by mundane things like playground antics nearby or whispered conversations late at night. Bonds are being forged in that pressure cooker.
And secrets from the past surface again. Not his secrets this time.
Right, secrets related to a lost loved one, perhaps the children's father. It forces the mother to confront her own trust issues. Does she keep guarding her heart, or does she fully lean into this intense connection with the soldier?
And she chooses to lean in.
She makes a vulnerable admission, cracks open that door a bit wider, which deepens their reliance on each other. And trust, in this context, is presented as the ultimate healer. It's the recognition that you can't do it alone.
Which is something we see in therapeutic models too, right?
Absolutely. Integrated family therapy models used in U.S. medical crises actively incorporate outside support systems, friends, neighbors, partners like the soldier here. They recognize that sharing the burden isn't weakness. It's actually essential for psychological and practical survival. His support becomes that lifeline, reweaving the family's frayed edges.
But reliance isn't just emotional. Chapter 8, Burdens and Bonds, brings in the cold, hard reality of money.
Yes, the financial shadows of this ongoing medical crisis become impossible to ignore. It forces painful confessions about their economic situation. Her self-reliance, her ability to manage the B&B and the costs it finally break.
She had to accept help, which can be incredibly difficult.
Oh, deeply humbling. But the narrative shows allies rallying, offering practical aid, and intimacy is revealed right there in the shared load, in the vulnerability of admitting need, and in the tenderness of accepting help.
It reminds me of how communities rally online these days.
Exactly. Think about the prevalence of GoFundMe campaigns for medical bills in the U.S. in 2025. When the system fails, or individual resources are exhausted, crowdfunding often becomes that essential community safety net. It's people stepping up for each other.
So the act of sharing that burden, talking about lost brothers, blending memory with this emerging warmth, it turns necessity into something deeply connecting.
It forges a bond built not just on attraction or shared crisis, but on mutual support and the quiet ache and beauty of accepting help.
So Section 2 closes with them physically together, financially entangled, emotionally raw, and bound by secrets yet to fully detonate. The stage is set for reconciling his past with their present.
Precisely. The idealized letter writer is now a real, complicated man in her real, complicated life.
Let's take another quick pause. We appreciate you sticking with us through this deep dive. Like, subscribe, and share for more update. Okay, we're into Section 3, and this is all about the shift from, the soldier being this distant figure in letters
To being a real physical presence in their daily lives, right there in the B&B at the hospital.
And that brings a whole new set of challenges. His old life, his commitments, his baggage, basically, starts clashing with this new domestic reality he stepped into.
Yeah, this is where the idealized image meets the messy reality of day-to-day life and co-parenting.
Chapter 9, Echoes of Absence, really highlights this tension early on. It mentions a missed milestone, something important he couldn't be there for, presumably because of lingering ties to his past. And that stings.
It shows that just being physically present isn't always enough if parts of you are still absent, still claimed by another life.
But then he makes a very conscious choice. The text emphasizes his decision to prioritize presence, especially for the young boy who's dealing with his own loss. He chooses to be there, actively mending that absence.
And this is such a crucial insight, especially relevant to contemporary U.S. culture in 2025. There's a growing conversation around work-life balance, about the value of intentional presence over just, say, providing materially.
We hear that a lot, especially regarding parents.
Right, and particularly in military families who are acutely aware of the cost of absence. The soldier choosing domestic loyalty, choosing to simply be there for the boy, it's framed as this quiet but powerful act of healing. It shows that consistent, intentional presence can actually start to repair the emotional holes left by past absences.
That commitment culminates powerfully in Chapter 10, Triumph's Tender Edge. There's a major surgery for the child.
High stakes, the operating room hum, the whole deal.
And it's successful, a hard-won victory. But the emotion isn't just relief or joy. It's described as this blend of joy and intense fragility.
Yeah, the adrenaline crash after immense fear.
And it leads to this moment where she just collapses into his arms. Pure emotional exhaustion finding physical comfort.
The narrative really nails that primal human need for physical comfort after trauma. And it's interesting, we can talk about medical technology, like the rise of rural telemedicine in the U.S., bringing specialist care to remote places like this mountain B&B.
Which is amazing technologically.
Absolutely. But the story subtly emphasizes that the real miracle here isn't just the successful surgery enabled by tech, it's the human connection. It's the embrace. That physical act of support is what truly binds them in that moment of vulnerable triumph. It captures that tender edge perfectly.
That shared vulnerability seems to open the door for something more normal, almost. Chapter 11, First Steps to Forever. They actually go on a date.
A tentative date, yeah. Under the stars, trying to carve out a moment just for them amidst the chaos.
There's laughter, coffee, talk with the kids.
Yeah.
It grounds the relationship in something resembling normalcy, but they're also navigating the inherent awkwardness and beauty of starting fresh. Right.
And not just starting fresh as a couple, but doing it within this incredibly complex, pre-existing family structure. This speaks directly to the shifting definition of family in the U.S. today.
Blended families are much more common now.
Exactly. And it's not just about step-parents, it's about co-parenting after loss, about chosen kin stepping into parental roles. Love, in these situations, has to actively work to define roles and build connections that go beyond traditional structures. They're figuring out how love can bloom even where loss and grief still linger.
And that blooming continues in Chapter 12, Heartbeats in the Quiet. Letters seem to take a back seat now.
Presence takes over. Moonlit confessions, guarded hearts unraveling. The vulnerability shifts.
How does it shift?
Well, think back to the letters. That was a structured vulnerability, right? You could craft your words, control the message, maintain a certain distance.
You could edit.
You could edit. Physical presence demands a different kind of vulnerability. It's raw, immediate. It's tested through touch, through unguarded moments, through seeing each other's flaws up close. A touch, a shared silence, speaks volumes more than carefully written sentences might.
Is that reflected anywhere else?
It actually mirrors some trends in therapy and connection apps around 2025. There's a push towards championing that raw, sometimes uncomfortable, in-person vulnerability as the path to deeper, more authentic connection. It's about moving beyond the curated self. Their physical connection here is claiming a future in a way the letters only hinted at.
But just as they seem to be finding that rhythm, that deeper connection, Chapter 13, Tangled Ties, throws a wrench in the works.
The past comes calling. Loudly.
They're on a family outing, maybe trying to build some happy memories, and it gets interrupted.
Yeah, tangled loyalties from the soldier's past resurface. Old obligations, old duties pull him back, forcing a direct, painful choice. This new life, this desire for family, versus the demands of his former life.
This sounds like the classic veteran reintegration challenge.
Textbook, almost. The source material really captures those specific difficulties many veterans face transitioning back to civilian life in the U.S. Old responsibilities, maybe to former comrades or unfinished business, can exert this incredibly powerful pull against new relationships and commitments.
So his choice here is pivotal.
It's huge. His decision to stay, to prioritize the family he's actively building over those older, perhaps deeply ingrained duties, that choice becomes the ultimate act of redefining his loyalty. It anchors their new beginning, but it also underscores just how tangled those ties really are.
And it sets the stage, doesn't it, for the inevitable confrontation over the secrets he's still keeping. The price has to be paid.
The reckoning is coming.
Okay, and another moment to pause and remind you, like, subscribe, and share for more update.
All right, section 4. This is where it gets really tough. We're diving into the fallout, the price of those secrets we talked about, and the incredibly difficult path towards forgiveness and rebuilding trust.
It feels like the relationship has reached a certain level of commitment, but it's built on a foundation that's, well, not entirely solid because of what he's holding back.
Exactly. And chapter 14, Promises in the Pine, gives them like one last moment of peace before the storm breaks. They're sharing dreams, talking about the future late at night.
Painting a picture of what could be.
Yes, and a promise is actually spoken aloud, under the stars, very symbolic. It's meant to bind their hearts, to be an anchor against all the uncertainty they're still facing.
That act of making an explicit promise feels significant.
It is, especially in our current culture. In 2025 America, with relationships sometimes feeling fluid or temporary, that act of intentional verbal commitment like you see in intentional communities, or even just deeply committed partnerships, is often what people actively seek out for stability. That spoken vow makes the betrayal that follows even more devastating.
And the betrayal arrives in chapter 15. Cracks in the armor. The hidden truth finally surfaces.
Like a crack spreading through stone, the text says, it leads to this raw, explosive argument. A full-blown confrontation over the withheld secrets.
Not physical, but emotionally shattering, I imagine.
Completely. But the narrative makes a key point here. That painful explosion of truth, as awful as it is in the moment, is actually necessary for any chance of genuine long-term connection. The silence, the veils of the unspoken from way back in chapter 5, that's what caused this deep crack.
So the argument, in a way, is productive because it forces everything out into the open.
It's generative, yes. Destructive, but generative. It exposes their deepest fears, his reasons for hiding things, her hurt and sense of betrayal. And interestingly, the narrative notes that the kids needs the constant demands of caring for them, even amidst this emotional turmoil, act as an anchor. They have to maintain some level of function, which maybe prevents a total irreparable collapse.
Wow. So even in the worst moments, the family structure provides some guardrails.
It seems so. But the immediate aftermath in chapter 16, Fractured Faiths, is brutal. Trust is shattered. He offers an apology, but apologies can feel hollow after a deep betrayal, can't they?
Absolutely. Words might not be enough.
Right. She's left navigating this jagged edge of hurt and disillusionment. But the crucial turning point in this chapter is her choice. She chooses to listen. Despite the pain, she offers this tiny sliver of possibility for understanding, for repair.
That choice to listen feels huge. It's not forgiveness yet, but it's an opening.
Exactly. And this is where we can draw parallels to concepts like restorative justice, which you see discussed in family reconciliation workshops and programs across the U.S. The focus isn't just on blame or punishment.
What's the focus then?
It's on understanding the harm caused and finding ways to repair the relationship itself. Her willingness to listen, even through the hurt, is that incredibly difficult first step on a restorative path. It takes immense strength.
And if the goal is repairing harm, then understanding why he did it, the motive, must be critical.
Absolutely essential, which is what happens in chapter 17, Shadows of Truth. Through more honest, probably incredibly difficult conversations, the real motive for his secrecy emerges. It wasn't primarily malice or intentional deceit.
It was protection, rooted in his own trauma, maybe.
That seems to be the core of it. Protection, perhaps misguided, but driven by a desire to shield her and the kids from the darkness he carried. And this revelation, this understanding of the why, begins to shift the dynamic from pure blame towards empathy. It softens those hard edges of anger.
Understanding doesn't excuse the action, but it makes it human.
Precisely. And this connects directly to the broader mental health advocacy we see in 2025. Openly discussing trauma, understanding the motives behind actions, even hurtful ones, is increasingly recognized as vital for healing rifts, especially within families impacted by things like military service or other intense experiences. Understanding becomes the bridge across the chasm of betrayal.
So once that understanding is there, even tentatively, the rebuilding can start. Chapter 18, Rebuilding on Ruins.
Yes, and the key word is rebuilding. It's slow, methodical work. It's not a quick fix.
How does it happen in the story?
Through tentative steps, small gestures. Sharing a quiet meal together, maybe a moment of shared care for the kids. These small, consistent acts start to knit trust back together, thread by thread. A quiet apology is finally truly accepted, marking the start of the real repair process.
It sounds painstaking.
It is. And again, thinking about restorative justice, the focus is squarely on the labor of repairing the relationship. It's not about forgetting. It's about acknowledging the damage and actively working to build something new and hopefully stronger on top of those ruins. The shared crisis that almost broke them now becomes the shared ground upon which forgiveness can eventually redefine their family.
They're intentionally choosing to build something new, something more honest, out of the wreckage.
It's the ultimate test of their commitment, forcing a level of honesty that wasn't there before.
Wow, that's a heavy section. Let's take one more quick break. Like, subscribe, and share for more update. All right, we are into the final stretch, Section V. This covers a lot of ground, chapters 19 through 30. It's all about resilience, about cementing those vows tested by crisis, and ultimately about forging a lasting legacy for this family they've built.
This is where the narrative really solidifies the idea that relationships forged in fire, the ones that survive the intense pressures we've just discussed, can have this unique, enduring strength. They've been through distance, crisis, betrayal. Now it's about integrating all of that into a stable, long-term reality.
And the pressure isn't entirely off yet. Chapter 19, Tethers of Time, brings back the medical concerns. Time feels like it's tightening its grip again with new updates about the child's health.
Right, the external threat hasn't vanished, but their response is different now. They make this shared vow explicitly to fight for now, not later.
Actively reclaiming the present moment.
Exactly. It's an aggressive pushback against the anxiety of the unknown future. This resonates strongly with a lot of the mindfulness and wellness trends we see in the US in 2025, that emphasis on radical presence, on grounding yourself now, instead of getting lost in future worries or past regrets. Their commitment becomes a conscious strategy to manage the ongoing trauma and uncertainty. Healing starts now.
And that resolve is immediately put to the test in Chapter 20, Hearts on the Line. Another crisis call comes,
Pushing them right to the emotional edge again. But this time, the act of rallying together, fighting for the child side by side, creates this powerful sense of collective strength.
Vulnerability isn't even a choice at this point, is it? It's just their shared reality.
It's the air they breathe. And the narrative suggests that embracing this total vulnerability, risking everything together, is what truly cements their bond. It redefines their understanding of forever. This kind of unity mirrors what you see in real-world U.S. communities during health crises or emergencies. People instinctively pull together, collective strength emerging from shared vulnerability.
Amidst this, another challenge arises in Chapter 21, Shadows of Sacrifice. A new loss occurs related to his past.
It seems so. Something pulls him back again, and his old operational, maybe protective instincts clash violently with his now deeply ingrained parental heart. He faces another definitive choice.
Duty versus family, again.
But this time, the narrative frames it as the final, profound choice. He chooses family, he chooses parental responsibility over whatever vestiges of his old duty remain. This is presented as a powerful redefinition of sacrifice.
Shifting from military duty to domestic duty.
Or maybe seeing that the ultimate duty, the most enduring service, lies in love and commitment to family. This really echoes conversations happening within the veteran mental health space in 2025. Healing often involves reprioritizing, understanding that building a stable, loving home is a critical mission in itself. He redefines his service.
With that choice made, Chapter 22, Co-Parenting Courage, shows them fully stepping into that role together. Grief might still be present, but they're a team.
Officially sharing the load, the joys, the sorrows, the kids' needs to force them into this functional unity, and the narrative highlights how teamwork itself becomes the daily expression of their love. They're creating this new kind of family, not through tradition, but through shared effort, shared laughter, even amidst tears.
This feels very reflective of modern family structures.
Very much so. The growing acceptance and support systems for complex co-parenting arrangements in 2025 U.S. society validate this idea. Family is built through intentional care and labor, not just biology. Loss, paradoxically, forged this necessary, courageous partnership.
And that partnership needs support too. Chapter 23, Holding the Line. Another medical setback occurs, testing their resolve.
But this time, they're not alone. The community steps in. Neighbors, friends. The support network they've inadvertently built rallies around them.
Proving that love and support extend beyond blood ties.
Absolutely. It shows the power of that chosen family, that community network. It mirrors the crucial role of patient advocacy networks you see in the U.S., where non-relatives often become fierce advocates, holding the line against institutional hurdles or sheer despair when families are overwhelmed. The child's own resilience also inspires the adults. It's family, in the broadest sense, redefining collective resilience.
After holding the line, Chapter 24 brings light through the cracks, a glimmer of hope.
Yes, signs of recovery for the child. Small victories, a smile, a milestone reached. These little moments reignite hope and allow their love, their partnership to settle into something steadier, less defined by constant crisis.
It's about appreciating the small wins.
Definitely. Very much in line with recovery-focused wellness approaches, celebrating incremental progress, finding hope not in one big dramatic cure, but in the accumulation of fragile, hopeful moments day by day.
Which brings them to Chapter 25, Unbreakable Vows. Is there a final test?
It seems there's one last looming threat or challenge. But in the face of it, vows are spoken again, this time perhaps more formally, cementing a future that they believe no loss can now break. It's that ultimate promise: I will stay no matter what.
Sealing the bond for good.
This is the narrative peak of the chosen family theme. These vows, forged and tested in crisis, are presented as eternal anchors. In an era where self-made commitments often carry immense emotional weight in the U.S., sometimes more than legal ties, this bond represents that unbreakable commitment. Love, defined by intentional choice and survival, triumphs.
And after the vows comes the living. Chapter 26, Healing Horizons. Dawn breaks on a new chapter.
Recovery finds a rhythm. Laughter returns, maybe more easily now. Love settles into the steady routines of shared life, not just shared crisis.
It sounds like holistic healing.
Exactly. It's not just the child's physical recovery. It's the emotional and psychological reshaping of the entire family unit after significant trauma. They're not trying to go back to before. They're embracing the new shape of their lives, letting love integrate the scars and make them part of their strength. This parallels holistic healing trends, prioritizing emotional landscape after trauma.
Chapter 27, Roots of Resilience, shows the long-term outcome. The kids are thriving.
Yes, the past losses haven't disappeared, but they've transformed into lessons, into sources of strength that guide a more resilient future. It's a celebration of survival, of growth from pain.
Like those family resilience workshops aim for.
Precisely. Helping families integrate shared trauma and emerge stronger. This family hasn't just endured, they've actively grown stronger through their experiences, rooted in the love they cultivated.
And then, fittingly, Chapter 28, Promises Kept, brings us back to letters.
Full circle. A final letter arrives, or perhaps is written, sealing the years of commitment and promises kept. It underscores the idea that everyday moments, the routines established in Chapter 26, have become sacred. The vows renewed, tying the difficult past to this hard-won present and future.
It reinforces the power of the written word, even after all the physical presence.
Absolutely. Even in our hyper-digital 2025 world, the narrative suggests there's an enduring power, a permanence to intentionally written words. Think about the quiet revival of deliberate letter writing, not just apps, but actual paper and pen. It's about creating something tangible that lasts. Love's words outlasting time.
Chapter 29, Family Forged, gives us the picture of that lasting love. The B&B is glowing with laughter.
It's the image of peace, of stability achieved. A family forged in fire, now embracing its hard-won forever. It's a successful embodiment of that chosen family concept, proof that love, commitment, and intentional effort can build an unshakable home, regardless of origins.
And finally, the epilogue. Chapter 30, Letters to Tomorrow.
And a new letter is being penned. This one carries the accumulated wisdom, the lessons of their entire journey, loss, love, resilience forward to a future generation, or perhaps just to solidify their own understanding.
It's about legacy.
Yes, ensuring their story and the hard-won truths within it endures. It speaks to that very human desire to pass on what we've learned. Similar to modern legacy projects in the U.S., digital archives, family histories, memoirs. It's about making sure the narrative and the love it contains lives on, love's legacy forever.
Wow, what an incredible arc. We went from vulnerability sparked by a single letter across continents,
Through the shock of sudden crisis, the pain of secrets and betrayal,
to navigating the complexities of presence, forgiveness, and ultimately defining family entirely on their own terms. Not by blood, but by these unbreakable vows forged in the absolute fire of their shared experience.
And if we had to distill it, the essential knowledge nugget from this entire sprawling 30-chapter journey, I think it has to be this. Connection, real connection, whether it starts with ink on paper or a shared glance across a hospital room, demands radical, ongoing honesty.
Those veils of the unspoken from Chapter 5?
They were the time bomb. They inevitably led to the cracks in the armor in Chapter 15. It was only the choice, the incredibly difficult choice, for raw vulnerability and truth later on that provided the pathway to genuine repair and that lasting bond.
So, thinking about you listening to this deep dive, how might that gravity principle from Chapter 3 apply in your own life? Is there a grounding force, a purpose you're seeking or providing?
Or thinking about Chapter 8, the burdens and bonds, where might you be fighting a battle alone when community support, that financial or emotional safety net, might actually be available if you reached out.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. If the very last words you wrote, perhaps in a letter, an email, even a text, if those words became the foundation of someone else's survival, the anchor they clung to, what truth would you prioritize conveying today?
Heavy thought to end on.
It is something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into a story of letters, loss, and unbreakable vows. We'll see you next time on Book Podcast Up.